So your ship has been compromised. Your ship is going down. Maydays have been sent out, and you're basically at the mercy of the waves out in the middle of the ocean. What are the things that you need to do now while you still have a few choices to grab a few things? Um, First of all, put on layers of clothing, especially if you have wool, hats, mittens, especially if it's cooler out. You definitely want to have that. Just having a wool hat or some type of thermal hat dramatically increases your chances of survival, especially if you're forced into the water. Number two, you would want to have, if you have a watertight sack or bag, or even if you can just create your own, even if it's just Ziploc bags or a handbag, or if you have a female in your group and they have a handbag that's pretty much able to roll down and to become somewhat watertight. Putting vital communications in there, such as maybe a cell phone or a marine two-way radio, especially if it's a handheld radio in there, that would be awesome, especially if you have anything else. This is the next section, to include various signal tools. So it could be a hand signal flags, flares. It could be, different types of flares, handheld flares, the ones that you can shoot off, like a pin flare, whatever you have. And this is going to be key. The last thing, though, is going to be grabbing fresh water and some snacks, but it'll be much more focused on water, fresh water and packets of it. However, you can carry that on your person, especially when you're going for your life vest, which is obviously very critical. Maybe to tether that and tether these pieces of gear to your life vest. So when you are forced to go overboard, you have means to hydrate, some calories to keep up morale and blood sugar, a way to signal, a way to communicate. Maybe it's just a very basic means, but maybe you can still communicate, and a means to stay warm. And so those are the most critical that stand out right then and there. So have these things on standby. As preppers, this is a prepping quick tip that extends to not only things in your home and your bug out bag in your vehicle, but also to boats and aircraft. Depending on where you're at in the world, you should have the gear to respond accordingly to those environments. So this is common sense for people who do travel, or at least if they're global travelers, or they do this as a hobby or as a profession. But they know that you have to have those safeguards into place. And so it's good to actually have, on a boat, they have their different names, but it's kind of like a bailout bag for a boat. And sometimes referred to as a ditch bag or a last ditch bag. There's actually a few acronyms floating around, but it's basically a small loadout pack. It's usually in a waterproof type of container or sack, and has these vital components. And so it would be really cool to actually have a satellite phone in there, extra batteries, maybe a small solar charger, more advanced means of signaling, definitely maybe some type of water purifier, and so forth. But having some basics in there is going to go a long way. So just think about this, especially if you're going on boats. There's a lot of people who have boating hobbies, or when they go on vacations, they go on boating expeditions. And sometimes they request or recommend highly to bring your own safeguards, your own emergency supplies in case something bad happened. And so to keep mindful of this. So when you're out boating, it's good to have critical gear, and also to study how to move your body and how to interact with that environment, especially if it's a colder weather. Not only do you, when we talked about it just in the last video, about being more still, reduces the chances of hypothermia, but you can also do certain other techniques. For example, bringing your legs up or crisscrossing them, bringing them closer to your torso also helps create more warmth. Also getting in groups of people, huddling together in the water. If you're in the water and you're waiting for rescue, getting together and facing each other. And it helps greatly to increase the overall ambient temperature of that water. But once again, stay very still as you can. Try not to speak very much. A lot of heat does come out and moisture comes out of the mouth. Just breathe out of the nose. And there's techniques like that you should really investigate to get a very much more in-depth and to maximize every movement you have. Every bit of calories and energy you have needs to be focused on survival, especially on critical critical emergencies like this, when you go overboard, and especially over in an ocean, or for example, which is one of the most scary things, and when you're that vulnerable, and you may be in the water for many hours, if not possibly days, before rescue. If you're even lucky to get rescued, and this is something you have to plan for. How are you going to weather these types of calamities and these personal SHTF events? And it could be very trying on your body and your mind. So just be prepared. As always, you guys take care, and happy prepping.